Okay, so Job 40:19, it says, "He is the chief of the ways of God. He that made him can make his sword to approach unto him."
The Septuagint says, "This is the chief of the creation of the Lord, made to be played with by his angels."
All right, so we need a little context here, Sean, for the viewer.
We do.
The individual being spoken of, or the creature rather being spoken of here, is Behemoth, right?
Yeah, this is Behemoth here in
Leviathan's in chapter 41, right? Okay.
Job 40, and he talks about, behold, Behemoth.
Right. Okay. So him being the chief of the ways of God, this is the chief of the creation of the Lord. I mean, we believe that this was the first kind of like beast that was created, right?
Yeah, and that's what actually 2 Ezra 6 talks about, is that on day 5, whenever all the other animals were made, Leviathan and Behemoth were made on that day 5 as well. So Genesis 1 here. All right, so day 5, yeah.
While you're pulling that up, I just want to make mention this concept of meant to be played with by his angels. It's not like the angels are gonna get like are playing with Behemoth, like they're petting him or something, like he's a giant dog for them or something.
Right.
But the word there actually, it is translated differently in other versions of the Septuagint as sported with.
That's right.
When you're sporting with something, you're not petting it, you're actually trying to kill it.
That's right. It's weird how that word play in English, it has several different meanings in other languages, because same thing within Exodus 32, as talks about the people worshiping Baal, they rose up to play after they ate the sacrificial meal to Baal. But if you look in the Hebrew of that word and also in the Greek, it shows you that they didn't rise up to just play like children, but to do like inappropriate sexual stuff.
Yeah.
So in the same regard, the use of this concept with the angel sporting with Behemoth, it's not just like a pet. They're going to kill him. Because that's that's what we're going to read about. But that's also the idea of 2 Ezra chapter 6 says they're made on day 5. And here is all the things, moving creatures that has life, fowl that fly above the earth, the open firmament of the heaven, the great wells, every living creature that moves, the waters that brought forth abundantly after their kind, every winged fowl. God blessed them, multiplied them. So this is day 5. And supposedly this was when Leviathan and Behemoth were both made.
That's right.
So I'm guessing before even all these other things were made, the Behemoth was made as the chief of the creation of the Lord, which the word in the Hebrew and in the Greek for chief, that means it's Rosh in Hebrew, and it means first or head or chief.
Yes, exactly. And we see that actually iterated in 2nd Ezra, 2nd Baruch, Enoch, as well as these creatures being made, and for a specific reason, which we're going to get to. But yeah, as God's first creation of creatures. So
that's right.
Very interesting.
That's right. And we got a comment here. Hannibal's saying, if Behemoth is anything close to Godzilla size, brain exploded.
Mind will be blown. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and to me, that's why they have those movies. That's why they have that lore, that mythology.
I was just going to say, that's why your mind went to Godzilla, because
that's right.
These people making these movies, they know what the scriptures have taught about and what's supposed to be coming in days ahead.
Yeah, and this is why the angels have to kill them. I mean, they were literally created to be food, as we've talked about this before. I don't think I'm spoiling anything, am I? I mean,
no.
We've done entire episodes on this in season 2, but they were created to be food. So to me, it's like when they do show up, they're going to cause some massive carnage and havoc, and they have to be stopped. And mankind can't stop them; only the angels can stop them.
Yeah.
So that's something to think about, right?
Very crazy.
Just like in these movies, they have these huge creatures. They call them titans in the movies, which I think is very interesting. And then they have these creatures fighting each other and causing havoc on the earth. And like the militaries of the earth can't really stop them. That's why they make one of the big creatures to be the good guy that fights off the other bad big creatures, so that they can stop the fighting. Otherwise, but that's the twist of the actual truth. The truth is, Father made these 2 massive creatures for a specific purpose, to be food for the survivors of the day of the Lord. And that's crazy. I know we talked about it last season, brother. It still blows my mind to the point of like making my heart skip a beat to think of just how much he loves us, to the point where on day 5, before anything happened, Isaiah 42:10, right? He's the Lord who knows the end from the beginning.
Yeah.
And before anything happened, this guy, the Father, is saying, I got to make these 2 massive beasts, because by the volume of their size, I'm going to be able to feed all the millions of survivors of the day of the Lord who come to my New Jerusalem and need provision. And I'm going to have my angels go out and kill these guys.
Yeah, and you know what, Sean? What's more significant to me now in the days that we live in, especially with the whole Davos Agenda 2030 and them pretty much telling you that you're not going to be eating much meat in days ahead. They're going to make it,
That's right.
you're going to be eating synthetic versions of meat. So I'm just wondering, I mean, in the Father's providence, knowing the end from the beginning, like how bad it is going to be in those 42 months when Apollyon rather shows up. What's the world going to be like? Are people not going to be eating any meat anymore? Is this the reason why Father has to bring a massive amount of meat to the people because they're so famished? They're just not eating real food at that juncture of time. Like it's crazy to think about.
They're eating these gelatin health energy bars made of insects.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
Just like on Snowpiercer. All right, so we'll go back to this, and let me see here. We had one more, Job 40:24.
Okay. So Masoret text says, he takes it with his eyes, his nose pierces through snares.
The Septuagint says, yet one shall take him in his sight. One shall catch him with the cord and pierce his nose.
All right. So
much clearer, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, you got someone or an entity, a powerful one, catching him with a cord. So when I read this, man, I'm just thinking of like this super strong angel or like a company of angels kind of just doing like a lasso onto like, this creature's nose and snagging it with something and just pulling it down type thing. And, and just slaying it. Whereas in the Masoretic text, it's just, he takes it with his eyes, his nose pierces through snares. Like that doesn't really describe really what's going on in the context of this creature. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very indescriptive in the Masoretic, but the idea of actually catching with the cord and piercing his nose, it's very descriptive in my opinion, especially since it consistently with the Septuagint previously, where it says the angels will be the one that actually kills it. Right. So that would make more sense of the one. And we even talked about in season 1 of Honor Kings, this Apocalypse of Abraham that mentions the angel Joel, who supposedly has the keys to let these animals loose, or at least Leviathan, which also makes me wonder, is he also a part of the crew of angels that kill him?
Possibly, right? I mean, it's interesting. As you said, the Apocalypse of Abraham mentions this angel as being the one that restrains the Leviathan.
In fact, you know what it reminds me of? There is a unique moment here. Well, imagine instead of the Hulk, it's an angel taking down the Leviathan by his nose, right?
Yeah.
Because he's going to punch this thing right in the nose, right in the snout, and bring down this massive Leviathan that's in this movie Avengers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I doubt they did that on purpose, but I think it's to give the audience kind of a visual of why they would take it and pierce its nose to bring it down.
Yeah. And it's going to be much bigger than that thing.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
I mean, it's crazy to think about even this in the Apocalypse of Abraham. I know we're not in that book right now, but since we're talking about it, we're, Abraham saw the monster, Leviathan, in his dominion, in the caves in the world which lay above him, his movements and the destruction of the world on his account. That's what it says. Yeah. And it's so like, this thing is massive. It's below us. And I can't help but think of the, what was it? I can't remember which flat earth guy it was. You know the story, right? Where Buddy was out there kind of doing some street preaching, talking to people about biblical cosmology, and he ends up just randomly meeting up with Elon Musk's nephew, Jack Musk.
Yep.
And he tells this guy essentially that him and the Musk family have always learned or known that we live on a giant mountain that's on the back of a Leviathan.
Yeah, it's crazy. Crazy statement to just say from some college kid in Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's wild.
especially because he wasn't asked about it. That's the thing. Like they were talking about, the biblical cosmology, that we don't live on a ball of space, that we live under, a domed concept that with a, circle of earth. But as that topic came up, no one mentioned Leviathan or Behemoth, but yet this Jack Musk kid just offered this information about what his family taught him growing up.
Yeah. And they snuffed it off, eh? The guys that were talking to him, they were like, we don't know what he's talking about with that. It's probably some whatever. Yeah. But I'm like, when you told me that, because you were the one that told me about that little snippet on that video, and I was just like, oh my gosh. That's crazy, because we at that time we were going, we were doing our presentations on Leviathan and Behemoth and their return.
Job 41, 6 and 7.
Okay, so now we're talking about Leviathan here. Shall the companions make a banquet of him? Shall they part him among the merchants? Can you fill his skin with barbed irons, or his head with fish spears?
The Septuagint reads, and do the nations feed upon him, and the nations of the Phoenicians share him, and all the ships come together would not be able to bear the mere skin of his tail. Neither shall they carry his head in fishing vessels.
Crazy.
So just in case the audience is not aware, the Phoenicians, that's the city of Tyre, extremely seafaring peoples, merchants of the sea all over the world. And they would probably have, by volume of ships, they would probably be one of the nations with the most ships, because that's all they did was sea trade. So this is trying to give us the comparison that, the nations feed upon him, which is what was promised at the coming of the day of the Lord. So this is the Father expressing his plan that we saw from 2nd Ezra 6, and what is it? Also in the Apocalypse of Baruch.
2nd Baruch.
29. 29, and then also in Enoch chapter 60. They're mentioned as well, be food for the nations. So like the Father is in Job validating this plan that he has for these two creatures, and he's trying to express that even the nations of the Phoenicians, which was an empire-like nation in Tyre that interacted with all the other nations and had them under them as princes for their ships to go out and expedite their trade and increase their reach. So he's just trying to give a modern day comparison of this massive naval force of the Phoenicians empire. Not all of them even could bear the mere skin of just his tail.
Yeah, the scale is very alarming.
Yeah.
That's freaky.
Yeah.
That's insane. But sorry, Sean, I wanted to make mention that so here in both Masoretic text and the Septuagint, it paints Leviathan out to be a male, right? It says, shall they part him among the merchants, or do the nations feed upon him? The translators are actually just assuming the gender here. There are other Septuagint versions, like the Lexham English Septuagint and the Lexham English Bible, which I think is a pretty good version of scriptures as well. They put it as its. So it would be like, shall the companion make a banquet of it? Shall they part it among the merchants? They don't just assume gender, because we know that in the book of Enoch, it actually straight out tells us that Leviathan is a female. But
that's interesting. What little I do know about the Greek language is that the pronouns for he, she, and it are the same word, and it depends on the translator's, opinion or understanding to which one he uses. So that would make sense. That makes sense.
And if you just go to like a Bible Hub and pull up Job 41, 6 and 7 or whatever, I mean, you'll have a array of different translations, obviously, but the majority of them do put it as him, but several of them do say it.
Okay.
So, which leaves room for Enoch to be correct, in my opinion, with Leviathan being a female. Because I've had that come up before in the past when I released my videos on it. They're like, well, what about these texts saying that Leviathan is a him, a he, a male? And I just had to tell them straight up, this is what other versions are saying. And as you said, like the ancient languages they just assume it. The translators assume the gender based off of their bias or lack of understanding what these creatures really are and what other texts say about them. So
right, if you're the dude that's commissioned to go translate Job, and then you don't realize that you haven't read Enoch because that text isn't available to you, well, then you might assume it's a he. That might be an easy reference for you, especially if you don't even believe it. You're not taking it seriously. Then you wouldn't care to get it right either. So it's interesting. It's where it gives us the honor of kings to do our due diligence and find out the truth.
That's right. I don't know. Did R.H. Charles do other scriptures like the canonized 66? I don't know if he did or not. But if he did, I'd be interested to see his rendition of the gender in the book of Job regarding Leviathan. I bet you he would have put she.
Yeah. Well, he translated Enoch as one of the translators. So interesting. And he was a Greek scholar. He was a Greek professor. So Job 41, 33 and 34.
He makes a path to shine after him. One would think the deep to be hoary. Upon earth there is not his like, who is made without fear. He beholds all high things. He is a king over all the children of pride.
The Septuagint reads, the lowest part of the deep as a captive. He reckons the deep as his range. There is nothing upon the earth like to him, formed to be sported with by my angels. He beholds every high thing, and he is king of all that are in the waters.
Okay. So in this version here, it actually says the whole sported aspect of it. I mean, yes, Leviathan, Behemoth gets the same outcome as Leviathan, right? They're going to be sported by the angels.
Right.
But
well, I think it's it's interesting, and the more I read this particular passage here in the Greek, the more it makes me think of that old image of. I'm gonna pull it up real quick. That old image that you see, that's like a stereotypical flat Earth image. Let me look at it real quick.
Yeah, I think I know which one you're talking about.
Well, it's got the 3 levels of the firmament, and then one of the top levels is the big serpent flying around.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't, of course, I can't find it. It's not going to pull up because Google censors that kind of information now. But
in the image I made, I actually put Leviathan in the cavernous area, kind of below the. I think it was like near Sheol. It's too small in that picture, but I have yet to get to that video in my biblical creation series. It's the next one on my queue to do, but as Sean just zoomed in there, Leviathan is just below the earth, kind of right above Sheol. Obviously, that's just my rendition of it.
Yeah.
It's somewhere in a cavernous area below us, right? It has to be in such a way as the Apocalypse of Abraham describes that the earth shakes when it moves.
Right.
So it's got to be below us in a way where, we can feel its movement.
Well, here's my thought, and this is a crazy thought because we're just speculating on some of the descriptions. Okay. So with both of what 2nd Baruch 29 says, with what the Apocalypse of Abraham says about him, and with what we're reading here, it says the lowest part of the deep as a captive, he reckons the deep as his range. That means where he runs around and where he exists. There's nothing like unto him. There's nothing up on the earth like to him, formed to be sport with by my angels. We already talked about that. And he beholds everything high. I didn't highlight that, but it's just thinking out to me right now. Like, wait a minute. Is it possible, since we talked about the waters above the heavens as well, and they connect with the waters below the earth and the exterior of the firmament, is it possible that he's enclosed in this layer of firmament in the waters, and he can go above us or he can go below us? Just an idea, which could be where the ancient people got that depiction of the big serpent above us in the firmament.
Interesting.
So that he could go back to his house, if you will, which would be below the earth in the caverns that are spoken about here, which would cause the earthquake when he moves. But he also possibly could go above, is how he could beholds everything, every high thing. And I don't know. I'm just speculating here. Just speculating.
Yeah, I mean, that would be interesting if the waters of the abysses were somewhat attached to the waters above the heaven in a way where he can, or she can,
within the structure of the firmament that encapsulates us. Yeah. That if it was somehow connected, and that's how they drained down and leveled out and equaled out in some degree. I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting.
No, and just a thought.